Yo, what's up, everybody? How y'all doing tonight? Listen, I never know how to start these things off, so it'd be awkward. Like, I don't know what to say in the beginning, and one day I guess I'll work on the intro to this. But I'm here with another video to talk about something that has helped me a lot. Something, as a lot of you guys know, and I talk about all the time, a lot of you guys know, I'm a divorced single father. I was married for 10 years, and I talk about divorce a lot. I talk about, my journey in navigating divorce and navigating that process. And since, being open and transparent about my experience, I've been able to help a lot of other people, particularly men, navigate their situation as well. I feel like that's like an area that I'm called to, something that I can speak into from a perspective of not blame shifting, but taking ownership of past failures, taking ownership of decisions that we make, and taking ownership of just where we are and who we are in our current state. So a lot of times I say things and they're taken out of context, which I'm cool with it. But a lot of the things I say, I stand on it. It's just how I feel. And I believe wholeheartedly, because I'm coming from a place of wanting to see people healed and wanting to see people, process their process, right? Go through what they're going through and come out on top. I'm very open and transparent with my experience because I believe that is in transparency and honesty that people are set free. So that's the reason why I talk about the things that I talk about. And that's what brings me to this point today. A lot of people ask me oftentimes, yo, Tommy, everything that you've went through, like the way that you carry yourself, like you wouldn't believe that you went through those things. And a lot of times, behind closed doors, I battled a lot. Like a lot of stuff that I don't talk about publicly, a lot of things that I don't show when I'm out and about. But behind closed doors, man, I dealt with a lot of introspectual things. Like I have to, look within myself and deal with a lot of things personally within myself. Go to therapy, go to counseling, talk to people, apologize to people, apologize to myself. And a lot of those things are what helped me get to where I'm at now. One of those things was taking responsibility for my actions, right? One of those things were being honest with myself and looking at my life situation and realizing that everything that has went wrong in my life is my fault. Everything. Whether it was just like this freak accident, you call it, we can't, I don't know, I don't think so. But anyway, everything that has went wrong, at least in my life, every bad day was because of some choice that I made, something that I did, whether it was well-intentional, like I had good intentions or not, whether I was trying to be on some dirt. Everything that happened in my life, the result of it was a product of the choices I made. So I'm here today to talk to you guys about how to own what you did and how to own and take responsibility of your decisions that you made. I'm particularly talking to men in this live, but I'm going to say some things. Some of you guys ain't going to like it. Some of y'all going to disagree, which listen, I love disagreement. It's weird, but I like disagreement. I welcome it. If you disagree with me, I'm completely fine with it. I'm open to it. Let me know that you disagree. It opens up conversation, and ultimately, it's supposed to bring understanding, which is why the way that I entered disagreement was trying to come to an understanding. So, if you disagree with me, cool. Let me know or whatever. But as y'all tune in and as y'all watch, go ahead and share this, like this, comment, talk to me. Let me know if I'm hitting home. But today, I'm particularly talking to men, particularly men who have been through divorce, men who are going through a divorce, men who are considering a divorce. I'm talking to y'all today. And I'm here to let you know, okay? Brace yourself, because I'm about to say something that you might not like. It's your fault. Everything that you're currently dealing with in your relationship, men, is your fault. You can't say that. You can't say that. I can. I can say it, and I'm going to tell you why as we continue to talk in this video. Especially those of you who are men of faith, those of you who are Christians. Your household is your responsibility. Your household is you're responsible for that, and every decision you make affects that. And at the end of the day, when it fails, if it fails, at the end of the day, it's your fault. Now you may say, "Well, Tommy, how can you say that? Why are you saying that? Why you feel that way? It ain't my fault. She did this. She did that. She said this. She said that." Player, at the end of the day, it's your fault. Okay? So I'm gonna tell my story, okay? Just to kind of, take the edge off, because I know that for some of y'all already checked out, y'all already gonna tune out to this message. But I'm gonna share my story because it hopefully it brings context to what I'm talking about, as well as allow you to look and say, okay, I get it. All right. So I'm gonna share my story. I want to say 2010. I had started going to this church in 2010. New Year's 2010, I was gonna go out and party. My mom invited me to her church. I said, you know what? I'm gonna go to church. I ain't been to church in a while. At that time, I wasn't going to church. I was a college student. I was over the Jesus thing. I was sick of people. People was weird. Church people especially. I hated them. And I was kind of over God, so I ain't been to church in a while. She invited me to come. It's my mama. I can't tell her no, especially when it's church stuff. So I go visit her church, and while I'm there, I have an encounter with God, and it changed my life. And I began to reconnect with God from that point on. So I'm at this church, been at the church for like a couple months now, and one night I get this random message on Facebook, and the message reads, so you're the Tommy everybody's telling me about. Now, back in those times, it's weird that I can say that. Back in those times, Facebook wasn't what it is now, right? You can legit find somebody on Facebook and find out everything you need to know about that person simply by scrolling on their page, what they post, reading their statuses, everything. Facebook was fairly new back in that time, so I didn't have access to it like we have now. So it wasn't much that I could have learned about this particular person. So I'm like, all right, cool, we should hang out or whatever. So bam, we hang out. We go to this bowling alley, we hang out. When I see her, instantly I'm like, yeah, nah. I wasn't attracted to her. It was nothing about her that was like, nah, this ain't it or whatever. But we hung out, had a good time, went bowling. Me and her ended up going to Denny's afterwards, and we sat and talked. And when we sat and talked, it kind of like, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll check this thing out or whatever. So bam. So fast forward 6 or 7 months, now we're married. Okay? And I can honestly say from the beginning of that marriage till the end of the marriage, there was always issues, and a lot of it has to do with it wasn't it's my fault, but bigger story is my fault. But right now, it wasn't her fault, it wasn't my fault. It was two broken people coming together, never truly dealing with any of their past issues, never truly going through deliverance, never truly seeking out therapy or understanding what they went through or processing the experiences that they experienced. So there was a lot of frustration in a marriage, and then you add on top of that, a child coming into the marriage. There was a child or whatever. So, bam, we married or whatever, and there was a lot of things we didn't find out about each other until after we got married, which had we known prior to, maybe we wouldn't have got married in the first place. But anyway, fast forward 2019, I filed for divorce. I leave, and now that marriage is over with. Okay. After that marriage was over, all hell broke loose. People, I'm telling you now, if you're thinking about divorce, I would urge you to reconsider. Not because I think it was the best decision for me, but when I say reconsider, I mean think about everything, right? Exhaust all means of reconciliation that you can. Go get the help that you can. Go to therapy. Commit to it. All that other stuff or whatever. Those of you who are considering divorce, a lot of us who either went through divorce or thinking about going through divorce, we think the hardest part is working up the courage to get the divorce papers and sign them. That's easy, player. It's the aftermath that's hard. It's the fallout after the divorce is hard. It's the constant attacks, the constant chaos, the constant fight. That's the hard part or whatever. So we get the divorce, man. It was for 3-4 years. Well, it's been almost 5 years now, so I want to say 3 years. It was hell. And I'm sitting there thinking like, man, why can't she this and why can't she that? And, it's over. Why she's still mad? All this other stuff. And, I was able to take some time because, like I said, I really wanted to be healed. I really wanted to start new. I really wanted to be fresh. So I really was trying to get myself together. And it was in getting myself together that I was able to sit with myself. That's another side nugget. A lot of y'all need to sit with yourself. Women too. I'm particularly talking to men right now, but to women too. A lot of you need to sit with yourself. A lot of your problems will be solved if you take a moment and sit with yourself and analyze your situation from the perspective of say, what am I doing wrong? How am I adding to whatever drama that I'm experiencing right now? What decisions or choices have I made that led me to this point right now? And it's when you sit with yourself, you get honest with yourself. Because you can't lie to nobody when you're with yourself. You can't put on no mask when you're with yourself. You have to be real with yourself. So I was able to sit and be real with myself. And in being real with myself, I came to the conclusion, all this was your fault. Everything that you're experiencing right now is your fault. The 10 years of you being married, and it was rocky, and it was shaky, and it was inconsistent, and it was toxic. That was your fault too. And when I embraced that, it was almost like I was in a colorless room, and all of a sudden color just filled the air. Like it was like eureka, like it makes sense now. So when I tell you that it's all your fault, I'm going to explain through my story what I mean by that. Okay? So when we got married, before we got married, there was like the situation that happened, and I was able to see the worst part of her. Again, she's not a bad person. Been through stuff, experiencing. Like I said before, we were two broken people coming together and trying to make it work with no guidance, with no support, no point of reference or anything like that. So you take it. I come from a background, my mom and my dad have been married. They're married now almost 40 years. So all I know is marriage. But even in that, knowing marriage and knowing marriage and having a real point of reference and understanding marriage is two different things. But from a childhood up, I experienced some stuff, some drama. I was molested as a kid. I dealt with low self-esteem. I dealt with rejection. Definitely, possibly dysfunction connected with dysfunction. I dealt with rejection as a kid. I had low self-esteem. I was a people pleaser. I sought out affirmation, that I felt that I didn't get as a child, in relationships. I was codependent, all these things that I was dealing with, her coming from a background of not really being connected to her family scattered across, dad in and out of her life, being in bad relationships, never having healthy relationship with men. Like I said, when I met her, she had just moved up here from Indianapolis, and she had just had a kid, and the child's father cheated on her or whatever, and she was running away from that situation to start over, start fresh, start new or whatever, and never truly processing those traumas that we went through. And we came together, and when we came together, at least for me, I'm under the impression that to solve all these problems that I'm dealing with, I just need to be married, right? Dealing with rejection, get married. That solves the problem, right? This is my logic behind it. I feel rejected because nobody wants me. If I'm married, somebody wants me. That solves my rejection issue, right? I struggle with like pornography and sex and stuff like that. If I get married, I get all the sex I want. That solves that problem. Bam, get married, right? Low self-esteem. If this girl likes me, that means I'm attractive. So I got high self-esteem, thinking marriage was going to solve these problems. But they didn't. They actually amplified those problems. They actually put like a magnifying glass on those problems and made those problems bigger. But when I look back on it, it's initially my fault from the initial standpoint. This is my fault, point number one. Point number one, why is my fault? Because I chose to marry her. That's the reason why the divorce is my fault. I chose to marry her. I was able to see that this, before we got married, even in the dating phase, yo, this ain't it. You know, when we would fall out, they were big fallouts. We had arguments, there was big arguments. There was nothing, anything. It was just like real chaotic, real toxic or whatever. So I knew that I should have never married her, but I chose to marry her. So fault number one of mine, marrying, knowing that I should have never married her. Okay. But I did. So now I got to live with that. Right. So you may be thinking, right? Oh man, ain't no, this and that. You knew her, that person that you was with prior to y'all, you all the fallouts, all the toxic arguments y'all had, all the stupid stuff that goes on, the police calls, all that other stuff, all of that happened prior to you marrying this person, and you still married that person. That's why it's your fault. It's your fault because you chose to marry that person, even though knowing these were issues, right? So bam, let's say you didn't know these were issues, right? Let's say you didn't know these were issues. No, let's stay there. You did know these were issues. You chose to marry her. Bam. That's fault number one. Fault number two. Now you want to divorce her because she's who she's always been, right? She's always been this person. You knew what you were signing up for. So if you choose, and now this is, okay, I just want to make a disclaimer. I'm not saying you can't marry somebody that has problems, or somebody that's broken, or somebody, which I highly encourage you to get healing before you get married. But I'm not saying that people who were dealt a bad hand shouldn't get married, right? They don't deserve to experience marriage. What I'm saying is this. If you choose to marry somebody who has been through trauma, who has been through something, who has not healed or is still broken, when you're marrying that person, what you are doing is saying, hey, listen, I know that you are dealing with these things. I know that this is a struggle for you. I know that you have been through hell. I'm marrying you because I'm coming alongside you now, because I'm going to walk through all of that with you. And through that entire process, I'm going to love you. I'm going to support you. I'm going to be there for you. Because you know what this is, right? You saw it already. So you know this is who they are. So when you sign those papers at that courthouse and you walk down that aisle, you accept who that person is, right? So now, bam, you notice who she is, you still married her, right? So now she's still the same, right? Still toxic, always arguing, bitter, and never get better. Now you fed up with it. So now you want a divorce. Player. That's what you signed up for. You knew that's what it was. She didn't hit you with an okie doke. She didn't pull the covers off. This is who she's always been. And you still chose to marry her. So you should be walking alongside that. Hey, listen, we gonna work together. I'm gonna figure it out. Hey, listen, but now you want a divorce? Player, that's your fault. That ain't her fault. She was that crazy girl before she got with you. You knew that. That's your fault. That ain't her fault. That's your fault. So that's fault number two. Now you might say, well, Tommy, I didn't know she was this. She wasn't like this prior to. I didn't know this after the marriage. Okay. I didn't know until after the marriage. Yo, it's still your fault. You want to know why? Because you should have vetted better. This shouldn't have caught you by surprise. You should have been asking the right questions. Listen, I'm telling you right now, most cases when dudes are married to women who are quote unquote crazy or quote unquote toxic, 9 times out of 10, you didn't marry her because like you loved her. You married her because the sex was good. I ain't gonna even that's why you married her. She put it on you and you wanted it all the time. You ain't want nobody else to get it but you. So you wanted to clamp it down, put a lock on it, and get as much as you possibly. That's the reason why you married her. Play it. Listen. Ain't no box that good to sign you up for a death sentence. Listen, again, this is why I say it's your fault. Because you knew who you didn't even marry her for the right reasons. You married her because the sex was good. The sex was good. You married her. So you stuck with her now. Okay? But you want to get a divorce. All right? So back to my story. All right? I forgot, but back to my story. So bam, we married, right? Two broken people coming together, right? Trying to make it work. The beginning of our marriage is really hard. And this is why I say when you get married, your responsibility as a husband and as the leader of your house, and I'm specifically speaking to those of you who share the same faith as me. I'm specifically speaking to those of you who believe what I believe. If you don't believe what I believe, you don't believe in Jesus and God and all that other stuff, pay no attention to this stuff. I'm talking particularly to Christians right now, but the principle of a lot of this is still applicable to a lot of situations, okay? As a man, when you get married, your role as a husband is to be a leader, the protector, the provider, and you are responsible for that family. You're responsible for that household, okay? When I say the leader, I don't just mean the person that boss people around, okay? You know, I'm talking about you're leading from the standpoint of you're leading spiritually, you're leading emotionally, meaning that you are emotionally intelligent enough that you set the tone on how, you know, you lead your family emotionally. You lead from a financial standpoint, not that you make the most money, because she can make more money than you, but you lead from the perspective of being a good steward and manager of your finances. You are responsible for security of that household, security of that woman, not just physical security. She should feel safe physically, but emotional security. She should feel safe emotionally. Financial security. She should feel safe financially, and spiritual security. You are responsible for all of that. And when you aren't operating in that space, you give room for an imbalance in your household, which ultimately falls on you. Like I said, it's your fault. You can say it, you can say it all you want, but my man's, it's your fault. Okay? So back to my story. All right? So I told y'all I was broken, right? All the stuff I experienced. When we got married, a lot of our marriage was catered to what she had been through, right? You know, she had been had a bad upbringing. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna say bad upbringing, so I don't want to say it like that. Her mom did a great job, but family dynamic wise, it wasn't healthy or whatever. You know, so when we would go to these marriage counseling sessions, which sucked, we would go to these marriage counseling sessions, and they would always land on and that's just how she is, and you know, you got to consider this and you got to consider that. And me, myself, not being healed, not being having processed, you know, my issues. Well, what about me? What about me? That was my response to this broken person being broken. Well, what about me? You know? So I never truly led my home. Like in the beginning, I let my pastor lead my home in the beginning of our marriage. Like he had more influence than I did. And I ain't like that. I ain't like that at all. Like a lot of y'all may be wondering, man, Tommy, why you so you very vocal about your stance when it comes to spirituality and stuff like that? It's because it's a traumatic response. I'll never let somebody try to control me again. That's all that is or whatever. But, you know, I didn't lead my household spiritually. And as a believer, some of y'all may not even know this because some of y'all still letting y'all pastors run y'all house. Some of y'all don't know this, but as a man, you are the priest of your home. Meaning you are responsible for the spiritual growth of everything in that household. It's your responsibility. It's nobody's responsibility but yours. And with me, I didn't put my foot down. I didn't lead my house spiritually. You know, and when I say put my foot down, I don't mean it like in the sense of control. I mean it like, you know, when things would happen, I didn't make the decision to say, hey, we're going to pray about this. You know, I didn't consider the spiritual aspect of our relationship. It was all the natural aspect. Oh, she mean to me. She talking to me crazy. She doing this. It was all the natural aspect. And had I had my spiritual lens on, I could have looked at that like situation like, yo, she's just projecting her hurt. Let me speak to that. Let me pastor that. Let me love on that. Let me pray for that, right? Had I done that, maybe things would have been different. But again, I wasn't leading spiritually. I wasn't leading emotionally, right? I had some stuff going on with me. Again, I told y'all, I was dealing with rejection issues. I had low self-esteem, at the time. I had these issues or whatever. So anytime that I felt like she wasn't giving it to me, and I ain't just talking about sex, but I'm talking about like that. I don't know the word that I'm looking for, but y'all know what I'm saying. Whatever it is that I needed to feel secure, and she wasn't giving me, I would have this empty void, and I would seek out coping mechanisms to cope with it, whether it was binging freaking porn or texting an ex or something like that. There was one instance, and I tell this story, and there's no excuse to cheating. I think cheating is the worst thing you can do in a marriage. It's near impossible to recover from. And I don't stand for like cheating, especially in a marriage. Y'all boyfriend and girlfriend, y'all ain't married, so y'all still single, so that ain't cheating. But that's a whole nother conversation. But when you're married, the moment that you make those vows with somebody, you commit to somebody, cheating is the ultimate like thing that kills a marriage, man. It's really hard to bounce back from that. Okay, but I cheated on my spouse when I was married. But there's context to it. So let me tell these contexts again. Me telling this story of the context is not making an excuse. It's to get y'all to understand what went on. So this was around the time where the steel mill was hiring, right? And my steel mill was hiring. Everybody want a steel mill job. They want to work, make that money because steel mill be paying. But for me, that wasn't the job for me. I just know my personality, right? I'm not lazy, but I know that I'm not fit for that type of environment. I would have got that job, probably would have got fired or quit. I would have been depressed. I would have been stressed out because the hours worked, not seeing my family, all this other stuff. It just wasn't for me. And she really wanted me to get that job. I was secure in the job that I was working at the time. And, on top of that, I was making a decent amount of side money, with my music stuff, doing gigs and stuff like that. So when I told her I didn't want to do it, her response to me was, you chasing that stupid dream, and your music is stupid and it's trash, and you need to grow up and you need to get a real job. Mind you, I had a real job at the time, but you need to get a real job. When she said all that, like, you ain't a man, you ain't this, she said all that stuff to me, it deflated me. Like I turned back into that little boy that didn't have affirmation, that low self-esteem kid. It deflated me, right? So now I'm sitting here like, man, like I'm questioning who I am as a man. I'm questioning this, and I meet this young lady, and I didn't meet her to like hook up with her. I didn't meet her with the intention of cheating. I meet this girl, and we just talking, just casual conversation, right? And it wasn't even on no like us trying to get together. It was just legit conversation. She liked music, I like music. She was into the music I was into. We connected or whatever. It was cool. We would have these conversations. We could talk long about just about anything, right? And one thing led to another, and I ended up cheating. Now, the crazy thing about this is my ex probably would have never found out about this. But one day, I just was feeling guilty. And I told her. But in telling her, I didn't tell her the entire truth. I slow dripped the truth to her. Now, you may ask, Tommy, what does all this even mean? Two things, all right? The first thing is, had I dealt with my rejection issues, had I dealt with the low self-esteem, the lack of affirmation, the need of affirmation, and the void that I felt, had I dealt with all of that stuff and been healed, right? And I would have been in my role as a husband to pastor my household and lead my family. When she lashed out and said all that stuff about me, my response wouldn't have been to retreat or be deflated. My response would have been, okay, she's projecting. Obviously, there's an issue there. Let me speak to that. Let me love on that. Let me pray for that. Let me figure out what's going on and spiritually get things in line together and give her security, because her wanting me to get the job, when I think about it, her wanting me to get the job wasn't about me working at the steel mill. It was about security, right? We needed security. How can I make her feel secure? That should have been my mindset. But because I was broken and I wasn't healed, I took everything she said personally. So I needed something to fill that void, to cope with. And what ended up happening was me cheating. So that's how that played out. So this is why it's important that you don't go into a marriage broken, because anything that cracks the ego will lead to doing things like that. So that's one thing, right? So the second thing is, when I was talking about this, the second thing is, like I said, had I been healed, I wouldn't have dealt with all that stuff. I wouldn't have dived into that, right? So I told her the truth and I slow dripped the truth. So this is the second thing. I didn't tell her the full truth right there. I should have just ripped the Band-Aid off and said, hey, listen, this is everything that went down. But instead, I was manipulative. I slow dripped the truth. And what this caused was a lack of trust, and what some may call crazy behavior. Now, a lot of you men may be watching this and you may be saying, man, my girl crazy. She be checking my phone. She be doing this. She this and she this. She don't trust me. Have you ever given her a reason not to trust you? You calling her crazy, but what have you done to add to why she feels the way that she feels? Why haven't you done anything to give her that security to know that she don't have to feel that way? You see, the crazy behavior, the constant, checking your phones and, checking the tab to see where you at. Like, she had this one thing that would like tell her where I was going, and she would know where I'm going and everything like that. And, that crazy behavior, a lot of that has to do with, you playing with her mind. You playing with her emotions. And that craziness that you call, that's not crazy, that's hurt. And you caused that. And you can't be mad when she acting or being in that crazy manner, because you are the cause of it. You're at fault. Like, had I just ripped it, so two things. Had I not cheated, it would have been a problem. Had I just ripped the Band-Aid off instead of slow dripping this truth, I wouldn't have to deal with that crazy behavior. But again, like I said, my fault. And this is why I'm talking to y'all. You have to look at that. Are you giving them the security? Are you healed, and are you leading your household? If the answer, are you leading your household from the spiritual aspect? Are you leading your household financially? Again, I'm not talking about how much money you make. I'm talking about being a steward of your money. Are you leading your household emotionally? Do you have control of your emotions? Do you know how to express your emotions in a healthy way? Are you leading from that perspective? Are you giving security, right? Are you giving physical security? Do she feel safe at home? Do you make her sleep by the door? And when somebody knock at the door in the middle of the night, you tell her to go check it. Does she feel secure emotionally? Are you giving her reasons to think that you out there cheating on her, right? Listen, fellas, I don't know if y'all know this, but on Instagram, we can see when you be liking them big booty pictures. On Facebook, we can see when you heart them half-naked girl pictures. And you don't think your girl see that? You didn't like every big booty picture on Instagram, and your girl ain't got no butt. What you think that make her feel like? Your girl is not even 100 pounds, and you sitting up there liking all the thicker than the Snicker pictures. What do you think that does to her? Okay, are you making her feel secure? Okay, and if the answer to any one of those, I don't care if you're doing everything except one, if the answer to any one of those is no, you are at fault. It's your fault, Playboy. You the cause of that, right? So bam, that's that. That's that situation, right? You, okay, like I said, the first fault is you married her when you knew you shouldn't have. The second fault is you want out because now you sick of it. Nah, player, you gotta stay there. You chose that. You knew that's what it was. And then the third one is you didn't offer security. You didn't offer security. You were broken and you didn't offer security. Now I'll tell this story as well. Like I said, the security, when it came to that, the steel mill thing, it wasn't about working at the steel mill, it was about security. Now, collectively, because this story has been exaggerated, And it's funny, but looking at it now, it makes more sense. In a 10-year span collectively, I was unemployed maybe 3 months in the entire 10-year span. That sounds good, but when those 3 months are broken up in like inconsistent working environments or whatever, it can be stressful, right? And it wasn't because I was a bad worker. I've never been fired because of performance. I was only fired one time because I told my boss my kid had to go to the hospital. I left work, and she told me if I didn't come back to work, I was gonna get fired. And I told her F you or whatever. But that's neither here nor there. I did get fired. I'm gonna tell this story. So this is probably the worst day of my life. I got fired from. I used to work at Rent-A-Center, and Rent-A-Center has these big trucks to transport furniture and everything. So one day they was like, "Hey, can you come in early, like around 4:35 a.m. to drive out to Rensselaer to go pick up some furniture from another store and bring it here?" So I'm like, "Yeah, I can do that." So the night before, I didn't really get that much sleep. You know, I think we had just had my son, so I'm up in the middle of the night. You know, I'm crying, all this other stuff. I couldn't go back to sleep, so I'm tired when I go out there. But you know, I clock into work, get in the truck on the expressway, headed to work. So I'm driving. You ever been driving and you hit one of these? Hit one of those. That's what I was doing while I'm driving. So I'm driving, hitting one of them. Like, okay, cool. I gotta stay woke. I'm letting down the window, letting the air hit me, turning up the radio, trying to dance to the music or whatever, but it wasn't helping. So I'm driving, and then I hit one of these again, right? And the last time I hit it, all I hear is a plop. And I look out, and you know how Rent-A-Center, those big trucks, those big moving trucks, have those big old side mirrors. My side mirror smacked another car. So I pull off to the side, we exchange information, go off to Rensselaer, get the furniture, go back to the store, tell my manager, I said, "Hey, listen, I got into an accident while I was delivering." I'm like, "Oh, all right, Tom, it's cool. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out later. You good. It happens or whatever. Don't worry about it." So later on that night, they was like, "Hey, Tommy, can you go pick up a payment? Take the van or whatever." So the van, smaller van. I'm like, "Yeah, okay, cool." So we joking or whatever. He's like, "Hey, no more accidents, Tommy." I'm like, "You're crazy," or whatever. So I get in the car. I get in the van, so I pull off or whatever. And I forgot why I was turning around. I don't know why I was turning around, but I wasn't that far from the store. Probably like literally the next street over. And I went to turn around. And when I went to turn around, I hit reverse instead of drive. And I back into the car behind me. And when I look behind me, it's like this old man in these big Coke bottle glasses look up like this. I'm like, dang. So again, police come, exchange information, blah, blah, blah. I go back to the store. They're like, "Hey, you back fast? That was quick." I say, "Hey, I got into another accident." They laughing because they think I'm playing. Like, "Oh, you're funny, you're crazy, Tommy." I'm like, no. I really got into another accident. Like, "Oh man, Tommy, come on, man. We'll figure it out or whatever." Boss was still nice about it or whatever. So in that night, I go home from work, go to the gas station before I go home. I'm pulling out from the gas station, and pop! I back in another car. I kid you not, I can't make this up. I get out the car, and I look up at the dude, and he literally looks at me, and I don't know if he saw it in my eyes that this was like the worst day of my life, or he just ain't have insurance. But he was like, "Just go home, man. Just go home." So I go home, and I tell about my wife at the time what happened. 2 days later, they come back from HR with the decision, and like, "Hey, man, we got to terminate you, man. 2 accidents or whatever." So I'm like, cool. So I said all that. That was just a termination story. One of the stories about when I got fired or whatever. But anyways, there was a time when I had lost my job. I was in between jobs or whatever, and we were struggling financially. Again, that security component. And I'm like, as a man, I'm like, "Yo, I got to figure this out. I got to make some money." So, you know, I side hustle again, my music stuff. I can make a little money there. I did photography at the time. I can make a little money there, but it wasn't coming in fast enough for me or whatever. So I decided to go to the casino. I said, "You know what? I'm going to give this thing a try." And I was in the casino for every bit of like 30 minutes. And I walked out of that joint with like $6 grand playing blackjack. Like, I'm a monster on blackjack. Anyway, that's besides the point. But anyway, I walk out with $6,000, bam, go home. We got money, we good or whatever, right? But the problem was that adrenaline rush that I felt and winning that money in that short amount of time. So my thought process at the time is like, yo, if I can go in there 30 minutes and win $6,000 and get money that fast, I can definitely win some more money. Let me, same strategy that I used when I went in there this time. That led to me being dumb, spending a lot of money and losing a lot of money. Listen, y'all, the casino, they got it rigged up, especially if you win a lot of money. They gonna get their money back. So my advice to y'all, if y'all go to the casino, if you ever win some money, leave. Don't stay there because they gonna get their money back. But anyways, I lost some money to pay some bills or whatever. And this caused, now mind, again, this is me thinking, oh, all right, I lost it. But I didn't tell her, I can make this up or whatever. I can do all this. But before I had the time to make it up, we get a phone call, say, hey, listen, this bill ain't paid. And she like, yo, I thought you paid it. And that's when I had to come out and tell her, yo, nah, this has happened. Again, the insecurity. I didn't give her security there. So that caused more problems or whatever, right? So if you're not securing or making them feel secure, if they don't feel safe, and not just physically, they need financially, emotionally, like they need to know that, yo, I'm gonna come home and I'll have a roof over my head. There'll be food in the refrigerator. I'll have gas in my car. If they don't feel that, that's your fault. You're responsible for that security in that household. And when you don't meet those criteria, man, it's your fault. So again, we can say it all day, and I know some people ain't gonna like it, but man, it's your fault. Well, she cheated on me. Well, she this. Yeah, that's still your fault too, man. How is that? It's your fault because you know, like I said before. Oh, I didn't know she was like this. Well, that's your fault because you should have did more vetting. You should have asked the right questions. You should have did your due diligence and really understanding and knowing who this person was before you committed to them. Had you done that, had you did the proper investigation, you would have knew that, hey man, she like to have sex a lot, and I can't keep up with her. You know what I'm saying? Like you should know these things before you get married, and because you don't do the right, ask the right question and the right vetting, ultimately, man, that falls on you. That's your fault. So, bam. So now we in this thing or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Those are the faults or whatever, right? So now, again, back to my story. Fast forward a couple years later, I'm like, you know what? I'm over it. You know, I was over the constant nagging, the constant arguing, the constant complaining, the toxic relationship. And this is my thought process. I'm over it. I want out. So around September 2018, pretty much told like, yo, I'm done. I'm out. I'm checked out or whatever. You know, and she's like, no, we gonna fight for this marriage or whatever. She did something that was it was bogus what she did or whatever. But at the end of the day, even in her doing that, that was still my fault. You know, had I been where I need to be at and done what she would have never did what she did. But anyway, she's like, yo, no, you know, so I'm sorry, this and that. No, we gonna work on this. We gonna save our marriage. We gonna fight for our marriage. So I'm like, no, I'm checked out. This is 2018, September. I'm from September to about December. I'm checked out. But then something hit me like, you know what? I'm not gonna let it be said that I didn't try everything in my power to make this thing work. So before I leave, before I file, I want to at least say that I did everything that I can to save this. So we started going to marriage counseling, and you know, I told like, yo, worry about you, I'm worried about me. I'm not about to tell them what you need to fix. I'm gonna tell them what's wrong with me. I'm gonna deal with that. I'm going to therapy, I'm going to counseling, doing all of that. So then I'm like, you know what? Maybe I will stick in this thing, right? But then there was like this moment that, you know, she felt like nothing was wrong with her or she didn't have to change anything. And I say, hey, ain't no point of us doing this thing or whatever. I didn't tell her that. Now, this is, again, even in the divorce, even in leaving, how you leave matters too, or whatever. After my marriage, you know, she was on one. She was on one, and it was pissing me off. I'm like, yo, come on, man, it ain't gotta be like this. But you know, I had to think back to even how I handled the whole divorce thing, right? So one day I just went and filed for divorce. I didn't tell her. I didn't notify her. I didn't say anything. So, it takes a while for them to process the paper and serve you the paper. So prior to them serving her the paper, I'm still coming home like ain't nothing. Like it is what it is. I mean, it's a silent treatment. We ain't really talking to each other, but I ain't even tell her I filed for divorce. I'm just coming home like it ain't nothing. Going to work, coming home like it ain't nothing. She gets served her divorce papers at her job. And thinking back on it, I'm like, yo, Tommy, that was petty. Like you at least told her, hey, look, I filed for divorce. But you waited till she got served. Like, how embarrassing that was for her? To be at work and somebody serving her a paper. I don't even know how it went down. But I can only imagine how embarrassing that was for her. So not only did I hurt her, you know what I'm saying? I embarrassed her. So, yeah, now she's like, all those things. Now she's like this, quote unquote, because she's not crazy, but this is what I'm thinking. She's crazy. There's all this crazy behavior that she's displaying, that she's doing, the trying to run my name through the mud, talking crazy. I lost my kid. I didn't have my kids for like 8 months or whatever. Lying to people. I had a dude talking about he was gonna kill me or whatever. Let me not talk about that because I still to this day. Anyways, all the stuff that she doing, I'm sitting like, yo, yeah, she tripping, she this and that. But again, it took me sitting with myself to look at what she was doing and say, yo, that's my fault. I caused that. So I say all that to say this. After your marriage, the divorce part, that's the easy part. Signing on papers at the courthouse, that's the easy part. The hard part is afterwards. She trying to take all your money. She running you through the ringer. She lying on you. You may have one of them crazy exes that every time you date somebody, she'll go befriend everybody you try to date and then tell them how terrible a person you was. Or she on man, she put me on blast on Facebook. She lying on you, this and that or whatever. Yo, you caused that. That's your fault. That's your fault. She is who she is right now because of you. You caused that. I don't care how many Facebook posts she made. You caused that. And like I said, I had to sit with myself and accept that. And it wasn't until I accepted that I was able to not take those attacks take them personally. I was able to sit back like, yo, it is what it is. This is part of it. It's part of it. And this is what, like, a lot of people hate that I talk about divorce. And they think when I talk about it, I'm so pro-divorce. I'm not. Believe me, I am not pro-divorce. I believe in marriage. I believe in family. I believe in sticking it out. I believe in working it out. I just didn't do it. When I talk about divorce, I say this is my stance on it. If you've exhausted all means of reconciliation and you can't reconcile, that's between you and God. But when you choose what you choose, know that there's consequences behind it. You don't get off scot-free. All the stuff that follows after that, that's part of it. And you have to be okay with that. I say that a lot. So when you get that divorce, and especially when you're the one that filed it, you have to be okay with the fallout afterwards. You can't get mad. You can't tell them how to feel. You can't tell them they need to forgive you. You can't tell them they bitter. You can't tell them they messy. You can't tell them they miserable. You don't have that space anymore. You forfeited all that when you filed for divorce. So whatever they choose to do, that's they have every right to do it the way that they're doing it. And you can't be mad about it because that's part of the consequences. That's part of what you chose to do. So, now you divorced and your ex is giving you the blues. Accept it. Embrace it because it's your fault. Yeah, you might not. It's your fault. Now, when I say it's your fault, I say that because as a man, everything that happens in our life, we have to embrace it from that perspective. I made a decision, and these are the consequences of my decision. Whether it was well-intended intentions, meaning you meant well, or if you was on some dirt, every decision you make has a consequence. And when you make that decision, you have to be okay with it. You can't blame nobody else. Ain't no blame, ain't no shifting the blame. A man needs to embrace the choices that he makes. And if you chose to divorce, you chose to leave, you chose to marry, and you knew you shouldn't have married, and it don't work out, you have to embrace the reality that it's your fault and move forward knowing that. Now, I ain't saying like you got to live in pity or you got to, man, I'm a failure, I make poor choices. No. You made those choices, you deal with the consequences, you embrace it as your fault for you to say, you know what, I'll never do that again. And not like, I'll never do that again as if she's the problem. No, I'll never make choices like that again. I'll never make choices and think that I don't get to experience the consequences of them. That's what I mean by that. Embrace your choices. You chose that. Live with it. You don't get to dictate how she responds to you. You don't get to dictate if she's mad. You don't get to dictate if she's still hurting. You don't get to dictate if she needs to get healing. She probably do. And you're probably right. But she got the right to do whatever she want to do to you. However she ever want to respond to you. Because of what you put her through. And this ain't to say like you just was this terrible husband or whatever, because you probably was a good husband. You probably just didn't make good choices. But at the end of the day, who she is now, you added to that in some way. I don't care if it's little or big. You may say, I did everything right. If you did everything right, you wouldn't be in the situation that you're in now. I did it. No. If you did everything right, you wouldn't have married her knowing that she had problems. If you did everything right, you would have knew that she had problems prior to her getting married, and you would have chose I'm not going to marry this because of these problems, or I'm going to marry this and walk her through those problems. If you did everything right, you would have gave her security in every aspect if you did everything right. So, again, I say to you, fellas, it's your fault. Okay? Listen, don't feel bad. Don't beat yourself up. Don't feel like a failure. It happens to the best of them. And I'm not perfect. I'm not saying this from the perspective of thinking that I got everything right, or because there's some days, I can go a good 6 or 7 months without speaking to my ex. Or if we do talk, we on good terms. And then she say something off the wall and I get triggered somehow and I say something stupid. And then I got to go back. Hey, Tommy, you could have handled that better. And I go back and apologize. Even if she's like, I don't care about nobody. Don't apologize to me. Don't talk to me. My apology wasn't for you to like just accept it and let things. My apology was to say, hey, I got it wrong, and I apologize for that. My apology was really for me or whatever. So it's like, I'm still learning. But in my learning, I have to embrace the fact, everything that happens in my life, every decision that I make, it's my fault. Good or bad, it's my fault. I can't blame the devil. I can't say, man, the devil fight. No, the devil not fighting Tommy. Tommy made poor choices. Okay? The devil ain't that powerful. It ain't the devil. It ain't the devil with you. Now, you may be experiencing some spiritual stuff, but if we really be honest with ourselves, a lot of the things that we experience is because we made a choice. We made a poor choice. We didn't think it all the way through. Or we made a choice and gambled. We thought, hey, it's a risky situation. I got to make a decision. I made one, and it didn't pan out well. That's completely fine. But you got to live with the consequences of it. So, fellas, talking to y'all, it's your fault. Fix it. Fix it don't mean fix it with her. Fix it means fix it within yourself. Okay? Make better choices. And you don't have to deal with this type of stuff. So, thank y'all for watching. Hopefully, this was good. If you disagree with me, let me know. I like disagreement. People who know me know I love conflict. I like disagreement because disagreement brings understanding. Well, it's supposed to bring understanding. When I disagree with somebody, I come to the table trying to hear from their perspective and try to understand. So, disagreement sparks conversation. So, if you disagree with me, let me know. But if you agree with me, let me know. Share this, comment below. And yeah, I'm about to go to sleep now. Talk to y'all later.